First hour. All right, dude.
What was the point of view from?
The guy that Rendell ate and Beowulf watched.
Oh, I should have. Oh, yeah. It was very funny. And then my mom ordered it. Who cleared my email? Oh, visitor, you got a question about like.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
As both government and history of college credit?
Are you in both
Yeah,
right now?
yeah,
Yes. You sign up for both.
okay,
If you want, 3 hours each.
okay.
Okay, now, you should only sign up for the class you're in if you're just in one of them. Next semester, we'll do another sign up.
Is it due at midnight tonight, like the rest of them?
Did you hear that?
The Newman
was.
We're not
It's his
Newman.
friends.
We're not Newman.
Okay.
It's friends.
Yeah, we're friends.
We're all friends?
So I haven't gotten a deadline from them.
Okay.
So don't panic. Friends is what?
It was confusing.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
my mom has told people and cover step by step.
She was like,
Yeah, I know.
And I was like, I don't
You're gonna have a riot.
Yeah, Chatty Cathy's. Hey, any other questions? Okay, so yesterday, guys, our Wi-Fi was trash. Okay, so like my video, like I looked at it and it turned off. And so I actually set up a hotspot from my phone to finish the lecture yesterday. And I know it was probably grainy and awful. I apologize. That problem has been fixed. But I did get into this discussion on understanding how the stock market functions, because I mean, when I say people panicked, you need to understand what that means. And I was just kind of getting to that at the end of the lecture after explaining, what happened to Boeing when they, the 737 MAX, which could have directly impacted some of you in this room, depending on where your parents may have a job, okay, whether it's a parts supplier for Boeing or Spirit and so forth. When they shut down the 737 MAX, the Boeing stock was going to take a hit, right? So you're trying to offload that, and nobody's buying it because they're like, we don't know how long this is going to take or if they'll ever get it fixed. People are dying on these airplane crashes. It's a horror story for Boeing. Okay, it really is. And so think about that as the entire economy. People begin to realize that the stock market is way overvalued compared to what it should be valued at. And so many people that normally hadn't been investing in the stock market were getting into the market trying to get rich quick. These are your Johnny-come-latelys that, that come in and try and get rich in the market, and then panic sets in. So on the 24th, which is Black Thursday, J.P. Morgan and a bunch of other rich New York bankers got together and they started buying up stock. They put together $240 million, which is a lot of money in 1920. And they start buying up stock. So like when you're trying to offload your stock and nobody's buying, you're like, crap, I'll take, 10 cents on the dollar. I'll sell it for, say I had $1,000 in, I'll sell it for 100. Okay, just to get something back. I thought you had a question.
No.
Okay. So once these guys started buying up stock, the panic kind of like subsided. All right. And so it didn't, it went down, but it didn't collapse. All right. So the market rebounded with this investment. Panic seemed over. Now, the president by this time is Herbert Hoover. Okay. I know we didn't do a lot on Calvin Coolidge because Calvin Coolidge just didn't do a lot. Okay. Let me just give you a quote to kind of encapsulates Calvin Coolidge. Calvin Coolidge said, "The business of America is big business. If big business is doing well, then everybody else should be doing well as well." Okay, people will have jobs, they'll be making lots of products, people will be able to afford them. This is good for America. So he just kind of, as a conservative, just kind of got out of the way. Okay, didn't really govern much. You follow me? Okay. Now, Hoover comes in 19, he's elected in 28, takes office in January, or actually March. Okay, back, we used to have inauguration in March. So he takes office in March of 1929. And then October is when the panic hit. Did Hoover cause that? Can a president turn an economy on its head in 6 months? In 1929? No. It's not Hoover's fault, but who's going to get blamed? Yeah. When good things happen when you're president, you can take all kinds of credit. Okay? But when bad things happen under your presidency, you get blamed, whether it's your fault or not. Okay? And a lot of times you get credit, whether it's your fault or not. Okay? You're doing or not, I guess I should say, right? So on the 29th, on Tuesday, people realized, well, first, these bankers, JP Morgan, they realized they were overcommitted. So they had just put $240 million into, well, basically a shell. It was not solid. Hoover went on the radio and said, look, the economy is on solid ground. We're all going to be fine. Don't panic. What do people do when you tell them not to panic? Okay, so Hoover, tries here, but it's not going to work. And so Black Tuesday, the worst day of all. Okay, so there's massive amounts of selling, and nobody's buying, so the value of stocks are dropping. Now, it doesn't do this, guys. The stock market does not go like, okay, this is the 1920s, it goes up, right? And then you have Black Thursday, it rebounds, and then you get Black Tuesday. No. It goes Black Thursday, Black Tuesday. Okay. It's more like that. It doesn't collapse in one day. But the average of the top 50 corporations that are on the stock market, there's a whole bunch more today than there were back then, fell about 50%. Okay? So over time, the market will hit its bottom in 1932. Okay? When we really settle into the depression. Okay? 32 is like, yes, for sure, we're in a depression. Okay? Yeah.
So this was mainly like brought about because of overproduction on like things?
That was one. I can give you like 6 that I'm going to cover. But you've got what we've talked about to this point, war debts. Okay, so the money that the United States is making, producing, sending overseas is never being paid back. Okay, and then we're getting loaning money to Germany. This causes trade issues, tariffs. It'll be a huge cause of this. When we start putting tariffs on foreign goods, remember the economic principle that I told you, because we buy so much, they didn't have money to buy our stuff, and then they retaliated with tariffs on our stuff, which means our food, which we export more than anything, and other goods are not being bought overseas. That's going to be a big one, okay? There's the unequal distribution of wealth, which I will talk about soon. So in all, I think we'll come up with about 6 different causes, okay? But overproduction was definitely one, because that's that cyclical, you slow down production because you've overproduced, and then you lay people off, and then it just keeps going down, okay? So that was definitely at the heart of the stock market. So you could blame the stock market for the Great Depression, but it's not the stock market itself, it's the speculation, the gambling in the stock market that becomes a cause. Okay, people buying based on the price rather than the product, the gross domestic product of these companies. Okay. So this is the worst day in the history of the stock market up to that point. 16.5 million shares changed hands. Prices fell steeply the next day, up, down, up, down. Now, this picture I added over here. Does anybody know what this is? It's called a ticker tape machine. In the other class, I talked about Lindbergh having the ticker tape parade in New York, all the confetti. Okay, they use this is like your stock tracker. When you watch TV, and I know usually you probably don't watch CNBC or Fox Business News and stuff like that. Okay. But you're watching the TV, right? And there's this little thing that comes along the bottom that has pluses and minuses and numbers next to it and stuff, symbols. That's the ticker, okay? And they use it on ESPN and other things now as a sports ticker, okay? But it was a ticker tape. So in the stock market, they'd had this machine, and it would print out the stock quotes, like how much stuff was trading for, okay? Because it would change. When there was more demand for a stock, the value would go up, right? When people really want to buy your stock, that's when the value of your stock goes up because your company's hot. You're having a good year. People want to own part of your company, okay? And so people are willing to pay more for your stock. That's what controls the price of stock, is what somebody else is willing to pay you for it. And when nobody's willing to pay you for your stock, you know what it's worth? Nothing. Okay, so if you can afford it, you might as well just hang on to it, just in case the company comes back, like General Motors did. So if you would have kept your stock from General Motors from 1928, it would be worth a lot of money today. You'd be able to retire right now. Okay. But a lot of people sold their General Motors stock because what was trading at $85 a share, General Motors, at its peak in September of 1929, fell to $8 a share. So you can see why people are wanting to get rid of it. Maybe I can get 40 for it. Maybe I can get 30 for it. And there were some people willing to buy that. Okay? But they'd have to hold on to that stock for a long time for it to come back. Okay? Now, you guys know what a stock split is? You've heard of that? Yeah?
Isn't it when they get like super high, they'll give 2 shares to each person and divide it in half so that way more
Those
people
are awesome. Okay? So like when the price of the stock starts shooting towards like $100 a share, it becomes expensive for people to buy. So they'll double the number of shares, give you 2, and make each share worth 50. So for every penny that stock goes up, you're getting double the money. It's awesome when you own a stock that splits. My wife used to work for a company called Dow Chemical in Louisiana. That was her first real good job out of college. She actually worked in a plant. And so the company gave them what's called revenue sharing, where you can buy the company stock at a little bit cheaper rate than the public, which is a good deal because immediately you make money on it. Now, some of those companies say, well, you can't sell that stock for 5 years, but we're going to give you a good deal on it, okay? And I remember because when we got married, I would watch the Dow stock because I knew she had some. And it got up like at $80 and they split it. I'm like, honey, check this out. Okay. So the ticker tape machine that morning, by 10 a.m., it was already 2 hours behind. I mean, it could not keep up with all the trading. Okay. Now they use computers for that and so forth. But that's where the ticker tape parade comes from the ticker tape machine. So nobody in the other class had heard of the ticker tape parade. Okay. If the Yankees win the World Series, guess what? They're going to have a ticker tape parade. But they're going to have to go through the White Sox first. All right, so I've got some stuff here. Come on. Where you at, mouse? Oh, okay. That's what I was looking for. All right. So this is kind of what I drew on the board over here. Okay. So, I mean, this is crazy. 390. The stock market's at like 27,000 right now. Okay. So you can see, look at how fast it went up. You know what I mean? You people just buying and buying, and then it's straight up here. Okay. And so this is Black Thursday. Okay. See a little rebound here, and then Black Tuesday. And so it did actually, I mean, like it kind of worked its way back up. So when they say the crash, it's a little deceiving. You know what I mean? It's deceiving. And people like to paint it out as it was far worse than it was. I mean, it was bad. Don't get me wrong. Okay. But you can see it took until mid 32 to really hit the bottom. If you're an investor and you put money in the market, you're gonna, I mean, if you're gonna put money in the market, you got to have some confidence, right? All right, because I'm gonna throw my money. This is legalized gambling. You're gambling on different companies you're betting on, okay? And you're kind of betting on the nation as a whole, okay? So you put your money in. You're optimistic. The value of your stock starts going up. You're excited, okay? Man, I'm thrilled. This is awesome. Man, I'm really smart. I'm such a good investor. Okay, when you hit the peak, right? Then it starts to go down. You're like, oh, that's not good. I'm a little anxious. It's not really happening, is it? Denial, fear, desperation, panic. And then you just give into it. You capitulate, okay? You're despondent, depressed. And then it starts going up. You're still depressed because it's way down here. But then it keeps going up and you have hope again. You know, oh, wow. I'm almost back to where I started, relief. And then it keeps going, you're optimistic. Okay, guys, this is why I do not watch the stock market on a daily basis. You should not. I mean, it's gonna give you anxiety. Okay, if you put money into, I mentioned the 401k, or I mentioned the Roth IRA yesterday, which is truly important for you guys. Once you get enough money that you say, I'm going to set some aside for retirement, you want to buy a Roth IRA because you don't have to pay any taxes when you get it out, okay? And any investment advisor worth a grain of sand or salt will tell you that, okay? Because I'm not a certified financial planner, okay? I just know one. Nobody laughs at my jokes. So what was I saying? Yeah. Don't watch the market every day because you're not getting that money out until you're 62 anyway, right? Why are you worried about it? Okay. Now, there are times when we go twice a year to our financial day. Twice a year, sit down. Let's look at what we own. Do we need to make any adjustments? Okay. Now, if you have enough money in there, they do that for you during the year. If you trust them, you say, okay, you see some trends. We need to make some changes. Go ahead and do it. Okay. This is the scene outside the stock exchange that morning, okay? And this, my friends, is a video.
Black Tuesday, I get it.
Oh, that's good. Now, see, you get some more. All right. Let me pull this up real quick. Video clip. And I am looking for list. Stock market. All right, this is like 2 minutes long. Whoa, I can make this Why is that so big? I'm gonna make it smaller. There we go. Ready?
As the roaring 20s were drawing to an end, so too was an era of relative prosperity for many Americans. As early as 1926, the construction of new housing had decreased. Businesses had too much inventory and too few buyers. Nevertheless, an optimistic America wanted to believe that the good times would last forever, pointing to fortunes that were being made on the stock market. Even people with little money to spare wanted in on the action, and stockbrokers readily agreed to sell shares on the margin, where they would lend citizens money to buy stock. These investors figured the stock's price was bound to go up and up, allowing them to pay back the stock's original price tenfold. The constantly rising price of stocks cast a spell over the nation. Noon-hour traffic stood still as people eagerly awaited news of their improved finances. Even distinguished Yale University economist Irving Fisher made a bold speculation.
The nation is marching along a permanently high plateau of prosperity.
But the simple fact was that the price paid for many stocks was unduly out of proportion to the actual profitability of the companies who issued them, creating the illusion of increased value. On October 29, 1929, reality finally caught up with the stock market, and what went up came crashing back down. Panicked investors sold 16 million shares in a single day, many for just pennies a share. Millions of other stocks went unsold entirely on that afternoon, known as Black Tuesday. In just a matter of hours, the stock prices took such a nosedive that any gains made over the previous year vanished. The market's collapse was the most distressing downturn in the history of the New York Stock Exchange. So distressing, in fact, a number of investors committed suicide rather than face financial ruin.
Okay. So you caught that last little part there about suicide. There's a lot of myths that are created out of this, guys, and that's one of them. I mean, the way some people talk about it's like you were seeing bodies like falling off of buildings left and right, people jumping off bridges, all kinds of horrible suicides. Historically, you can look back at data, and it shows there's no major uptick in suicides after this. Okay, were there some people that killed themselves? Yes. Okay, but it wasn't like there was massive suicides going on here. Okay, because you saw that. I mean, the market did not crash. Okay, it went down a lot, and you lost everything you put in that year. Okay, but that's happened to me before too. Okay, so yeah, it's just sensationalism. Okay, now they did mention this, and this is crazy. Okay, margin loans. All right, so I wanna get invested in the stock market, but I don't have enough money to really make money. So I'm going to go to the bank and ask them to loan me money so that I can invest it in the stock market. And when I make my money back, I'll pay the bank back. And they were doing crazy type of margins. Like you put down $200 and the bank gives you $800 so you can invest it. Okay, that's a 20, 80 ratio. That's nuts. Okay, it's kind of like this. You guys have heard of the dog track, right? We used to have one in Wichita. I mean, we still have it out there. It's not operating. Okay, and so I go to Intrust Bank, and I tell Intrust Bank, look, I know the number 5 dog and the number 6 race is a guaranteed winner. Okay. Will you lend me $900? I have 100, but I really want to put 1,000 on this dog. I'll come back tomorrow and pay you back the 900. That's crazy, right? Borrowing money to invest in the stock market. Now, by the way, they still do allow this today, but there are margin rates more like that. Okay, this is nuts. All right, so guess what happened? When the stock market hits the fan, right? The banks have lent this money out. And they weren't just doing this with a few people, they were doing this with a lot of people. And so the bank, are they going to get paid back? No. Okay, and so the banks are in trouble. Yeah, this is going to be a major cause of the depression as well. Bank failure. Okay, as we are about to get into, I think on the next slide, but it might be a couple of them. Okay. Okay, oh, here's another cause. I did mention this one, Grace, when you asked the question, is the unequal distribution of wealth, okay? No, it's kind of hard to see people at home, but you have access to these, okay? So, Hoover was wrong when he said the economy is on solid ground. It wasn't, okay? And one of the reasons, we already talked about this first one, right? Worker output, production versus wages. We know about that. What was the ratio? 40% productivity to 26 wages. Okay, pretty big discrepancy there. Not enough money to buy all the products being produced. Okay, now we do have an unequal distribution of wealth in this country. We still have this today. Okay, so it's not an exact cause of the Great Depression. Okay, but it helps. It helps exacerbate it. Okay. The top 36,000 wealthiest family had a combined income of the bottom 12 million. Okay, so you have some very super rich people, 36,000 of them equal to 12 million. Now the average income of the bottom 12 million in this country, and guys, there's probably about 100 million people in the country at this time. Okay, a little over 100 million. 10, maybe more like 130 million. I apologize. The cost of living was $2,000 a year in 1929, but the bottom 12 million people were averaging $1,200 a month or a year. Excuse me. If you are living under the cost of living, you are said to be living in what? Poverty, right? So if you have 120 million people and 12 million of them are living in poverty, you have 10% of your population living in poverty. Okay? Today, that number is about 1/6 of the people in this country who live in poverty. Okay? So when the market crashed, do you think these wealthy families were in the stock market? Yeah. Okay. When the market crashed, these people, they freaked out too. So they stopped spending their money. They stopped investing their money. They started hoarding their money. Okay, and when the rich stop spending their money or investing their money, that's going to cause more contraction of the economy. When they're buying yachts and boats and Lexus and Beamers and that stuff, okay, and nice big houses, they're creating jobs through that spending, okay? Because people got to make all that stuff. And those are the people that help invest new businesses. They have enough money to help start new businesses, okay, which will employ people. They stop doing it, okay? The middle class is not big enough or strong enough to prop the economy up, to keep it going, okay? Now, we try to do some things to encourage people to keep on keeping on, keep spending money. We are a consumer-driven economy. When people do not have confidence in the economy, they tend to spend less money, which makes the economy contract. Okay? I can remember after 9/11, because our economy took a pretty big hit. George Bush did a tax cut. The Congress did a tax cut. Basically sending everybody that pays taxes a $600 check. And President Bush went on the TV. He said, hey, when you get your check, spend it. Go spend this money. Create economic activity. Get the economy moving again. A stimulus, a shot. The butt, like a steroid shot to the butt, get you going, okay? So guess what happens? When the economy starts shrinking, you have more people laid off, right? And then they can't buy goods. It's just a downward spiral into depression. Okay, other flaws in the economy? You were just about 20 minutes ahead of me, Grace, when you asked that question. War debts and tariffs, okay? Remember, when we didn't buy their goods, they couldn't buy our products, okay? More workers laid off. Fewer people with money to buy any products. Now this is just stupid. This is crazy, okay? I mean, I talked about margin loans, but holding companies are insane. Okay. Let's say my name is Henry Ford, okay? The stock market's going up and up and up. Now, Henry Ford issues some stock for his company. So Ford's going to sell his own stock. He's going to take the millions of dollars that he gets from selling Ford stock, and instead of building or expanding his factory in Detroit, making it bigger, producing more cars, he says, you know what? I think I can make more money if I invest in General Electric. So Ford takes his money and buys GE stock. And when the market crashes, that money disappears. It's gone. So when people found out that businesses were doing this, and what happened to the stock market, they're like, you got to be kidding me. This is irresponsible. Margin loans are irresponsible. So we've got a lot of bad behavior going on here, guys. And again, the stock market itself, as I said earlier. You remember what they called people that went out to California to look for gold? Okay, 49ers, but what else? There's another term they use. Gold what? Gold diggers? They call them speculators. Okay? They're speculating that they're risking everything to go on a horse, because they're on horses, right? In wagons. Thousands of miles away from whatever their life was there, to speculate that they're going to find gold and get rich. The stock market is a gambling arena at this point. And it spreads doubt and fear, okay? And again, people were not looking at the value of the product, the stocks they were buying, they were looking at the price. And the price kept going up. But the value wasn't. So when you guys want to invest, and you say you want to invest in a mutual fund, you guys, hopefully you saw that yesterday, where you buy a bunch of different stocks in one fund, mutual fund, okay? You can look up who manages that fund, the person's name. You can look up how long they've been managing that fund, how well that fund has done since they've been managing it, so you know who's running it and what their track record is. What other funds have they run, and have those funds done well or not? Because when they pick all those different companies that they're going to build a fund with, are they smart about it? Okay? There's a lot more information today available. Okay? It's too much to see that on the TV. Okay. We good there? Good? Ready to move on? Everybody caught up? Good. Okay. All right. All right. We got President Hoover. What's he going to do? Well, Hoover's immediate reaction. I'm going to back up. Okay. You guys are going to write this down and not listen to me. So sorry. Bye-bye. Okay. Let me tell you about Hoover. You got to understand the human being to understand how he responds to this, okay? Herbert Hoover was orphaned as a child, okay? Both of his parents died. He did spend some time in an orphanage, but was taken in by an aunt and uncle, okay? He comes from very humble roots. But he was a very, very smart young man, okay? Just had a brain that worked, okay? And like some of you. And he started working as a young man and then put himself through Stanford University, okay? Paid his own way to Stanford and got an engineering degree, okay? He took that engineering degree and he went out and started his own mining company. Herbert Hoover became a multi-millionaire. During World War I, Woodrow Wilson took his own money and set up aid camps for refugees of World War I, feeding people, getting them medical treatment, and so forth with his own money. He is a very religious man. He's a strong Protestant, so he was very, very much opposed to repealing the 18th Amendment. He was for prohibition, okay? He's just a good human being, self-made man, very successful, okay? So you have to keep this in mind as President of the United States, where he came from as an orphan, from humble beginnings. He feels that if I can do it, anybody can do it. Okay, so he's coming at it from that perspective, all right? Now, Hoover's historians love to trash Hoover, okay? In some cases, it might be fair. In certainly cases, he deserves to be criticized, okay? But he also saw the future and what would happen if we took a different path. And he was very prophetic in that way, which I'll get to, okay? So you know who you're dealing with here. So he calls on cities, states, and charities to help feed the hungry. Guys, the United States government in 1929 is small. It doesn't do much. And I just told you about Coolidge. Coolidge is like, why are we not talking more about Coolidge? Because he didn't do anything. He just got out of the way. There was no need for the federal government to get involved, in his view. And Hoover's conservative approach would be much the same. He brought business leaders into the White House to say, you guys come in here, let's talk. Let's figure this out. And he said, let's keep your wages up. I know you're not selling as many cars or refrigerators or toasters or washing machines. I know you're not building as many houses. But if you can keep your wages up, then we'll still have people that can help stimulate the economy, that can buy the goods and services out there. Now, they also cut taxes. Okay, what would cutting taxes do would give individuals more money, right? They'd keep more of their own money, which give them some purchasing power, yes? But you remember how low taxes went in 1924. The rich were paying 25% only, and everybody below them was paying less than that. So there's not a lot of room to cut taxes. It's not going to make much of a difference. That makes sense, doesn't it? It's not going to give the economy a kickstart. Now, the Secretary of Treasury, who I've mentioned before, Andrew Mellon with 2 L's. He was Harding's Secretary of Treasury, Coolidge's, and now he's the Secretary of Treasury under Harding. 3 presidents, okay? My government students, that I have several in here, you guys remember when I talked about bailouts? Too big to fail, where the government bailed out General Motors and AIG and the big banks, okay? Mellon's taking the traditional approach. If a business can't stay afloat, if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen, okay? he's purging the rottenness. Well, if you can't make money, then you shouldn't be in business. Now, in today's world, 2020, would we be bailing out some of these big businesses with taxpayer money? Yeah. Now, we wouldn't have taxpayer money to do that. We would just print it. Because that's what we do now, is we just print it. Like we did for COVID lockdown. We printed $3 trillion. Now, these businesses that were shut down through no fault of their own, because the government said you have to shut it down. So you can understand, that's not really a bailout. That's like, sorry, we shut down your livelihood. We're going to send you some money. It's a little different, okay? But it wasn't in 2008 and 2009 when Obama and the Congress started bailing out these big companies that were too big to fail. So that's not going to happen, okay? This became a common sight, right? These are like soup kitchens, okay? Where people were hungry. So what can we do to help farmers? Farmers are in trouble. One of the big reasons farmers are in trouble because of tariffs. Because other countries stopped buying our food. So, now, just remember, guys, the federal government doesn't do much at this point. You have the Army, the Air Force, or not the Air Force. You have the Army, the Navy, okay? You have the Marines. You have the Post Office, U.S. Post Office. I mean, that's really what the federal government does. They don't do a lot, okay? So, and it's small. The federal government is very small at this point. They spent $500 million to loan. Okay, now this is the first of many times over the next couple of lessons that I do that you're going to see this word. Okay, loan. Hoover's not going to give you something for nothing. If you're in trouble, he'll loan you some money, but he's not going to give you money. Do you understand? Do we give people money today? Yes. Do we give money to businesses? Yes. Do we give money to farmers? Yes. Do we give money to people that make solar panels? Yes. Do we give money to people that make wind farms? Yes. Do we give money to oil companies? I don't know why, but yes. It's called subsidies. It's taxpayer money that is being doled out by the government to businesses, to industries, okay? So they're going to loan $500 million to farmers to market their crops. That means sell their crops, okay? The goal is to keep farm prices steady. In the end, because they couldn't sell these crops, the government ended up buying the food from the farmers so the farmers could stay afloat. And we couldn't keep prices up. And I am about out of time. But you can see here, guys, wheat in 1931 went from $1 a bushel to 61 cents. That's about a 40% drop in crop prices. Cotton went from 16 cents a pound to 6 cents a pound. Government would end up buying about $185 million worth of crops, okay? And then I will talk about what this means in the next session, okay? And then we'll sink deeper and deeper into this depression, okay? And it's kind of depressing.